I think the U.S. is facing some kind of fracturing, but a lot of people talk about a peaceful divorce. I think we've already broken apart. You know, and I talked about this before, right? Joe Biden comes out and says, you know, come on, man, you know, we need new restrictions for COVID. And Texas and Florida are like, nah. If you don't have red states trusting the president and agreeing to work together towards a common goal, then the president just represents the blue states. Maybe there. Look, I'm a young guy, I guess, young enough. Maybe there were periods in American history where half the states were saying no to the president. Maybe that was 100 and some odd years ago, the last time we had a civil war, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to civil war.
It's not going to be what you think it is. It's not going to be
the civil war is informational.
Right.
It's not with arms.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
fourth and fifth generational warfare.
Yeah.
So the point I'm making is we're well past that point. Like, China's not going to march into India with guns. They're going to buy more and more land. They're doing it. They're buying up property in the U.S. like crazy. They're buying up property in Brazil like crazy. And then their citizens naturally just move into these areas and then live in these places using the existing laws. They don't need to march in with guns when they can march in with economics. Same thing in the United States. The civil war we're experiencing is the culture war. It is a cold civil war. I shouldn't even say it's cold because people have literally been shot and killed, you know, notably in Portland, for instance. But it's not like factions with armies marching towards each other. The issue is, the best example is Joe Biden comes out, talks about COVID, Florida, Texas, other red states. Just look at Joe Biden and say, buzz off. We do not take your advice and we do not care what you think. So you got blue states saying, you got it, Joe, and red states saying, we don't agree with the president. We are already split into two different realities. You want to live like normal? Florida's awaiting. You don't got to wear a mask anymore. You can go shopping, you can go to the movies. Everything's back to normal. Go to New York. New York is now the epicenter again. And they're saying, oh, no, it's bad. We got to do more lockdowns. You go to Europe. Europe's locking down like crazy.
Yeah.
Here in the U.S., to see blue states go the exact opposite direction of red states. No unity at all.
I do find that interesting, though, that, I mean, like, the division has been happening for a while. I mean, just look at, you know, you go rewind 10 years ago. I mean, think of how many states just rejected, you know, Obamacare coming into their states.
Exactly.
And
that's why a lot of people do believe Obama was the time that this division happened. But I'm like, look,
I think it started before that.
Right. You can reduce it further and further. Look at Al Gore and George W. Bush.
Yeah.
It was a Supreme Court appointment of a president. No matter what you believe, there's half the country who believes Bush only became president because the Supreme Court intervened.
Right. Now,
there's a lot of people who say, no, George Bush won fair and square. No. The realities are divergent at that point. There's Democrats who are saying it was stolen. And there you go.
Yeah.
Then you get 8 years of that. Then Obama comes in. Then you get people were claiming it was stolen back then. Like even Donald Trump was saying that, Mitt Romney.
And the interesting thing about that is a lot of people tied the Supreme Court fight of the 2000 election to distracting our intelligence agencies from what Al-Qaeda was up to in the lead up to 9/11.
Right.
Because there was no transition. The transition was it was so rocky.
It was delayed and it was
Clinton,
busted up.
Yeah, between the Clinton and the Bush administrations, that a lot of people look at that as the one area where Al-Qaeda basically made its move to basically attack the United States through 9/11.
I think that was where we saw a big political split. But an interesting thing happened in 2008 with the economic crisis, because we had Ben Stewart here. He was talking about Strauss-Howe generational theory. Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
It's this theory that there are 4 seasons. A season lasts 20 years. You've got spring, summer, fall, and winter. After winter, this great conflict, this great crisis, comes a spring where everything is really good. The economy blossoms and booms. Then you have a summer where it's maintained and people are happy. Then a fall where things start getting shaky and chaotic. And then a winter again where the chaos breaks out. So right now, we are in the winter period. 80 years ago, the end of the last winter was World War II. 80 years before that, it was the Civil War. 80 years before that, the Revolutionary War. And apparently they've mapped out like all of these things that have happened every 80 years because it's based on generations. Are you familiar with that saying? Strong men make good times. Strong men make good times make weak men make hard times make strong men.
Yes, I've heard that.
It's similar to that idea.
Yeah.
That when you have a generation of people who fought through the trenches and many who didn't survive, only the strongest survive and come back and create a flourishing, strong society of prosperity. Their children inherit that world. and don't necessarily understand what it took to create it. The next generation inherits a world where they just feel entitled to it, which leads to chaos and collapse.
Interesting.
So it feels like, we're basically in this period now where we can expect, I guess the winter is here. It's going to get bad, and it's supposed to end around 2028. But my point was, the point I wanted to get to with 2008 was when we talk about when the political divide started and when chaos started to happen, they predicted in the 90s when they wrote this book called The Fourth Turning, that in 2008, when boomers became eligible for Social Security, the economic system was going to collapse.
Right.
Perhaps everything we know about what caused the crisis, mortgage-backed securities and things like that, was actually just all of the boomers now demanding their entitlements that didn't exist and figuring out how to cover it up. How not cover it up, but like cover the costs of this. When you look at the M1 money supply, it's slowly stagnant over several decades. 2008 happens, it increases by by a factor of 10 or whatever. It's just like spikes upward. Money creation is going up rapidly. Then the pandemic hits, skyrockets straight up. They changed the way they report the money stock mid-pandemic, and now no one knows for sure. But you can see 2008, where the money supply just goes boom and takes a sharp turn upward. Maybe mortgage-backed security crisis, they were giving out homes to everybody and people couldn't pay for it. Or maybe our financial system was broken. We knew it was broken. It was predicted that it was going to break, and then it broke.
I've heard that I've a theory that they used COVID as an excuse to print because they had to print because everything was falling apart.
It's a conspiracy. Was it you who was telling me this? Someone I think it was you who mentioned this. They were saying that Democrats made bad bets and investments that went sour and was going to completely disrupt pensions and 401ks and retirement plans. Was it you who said that?
No.
Who told us that?
I don't remember hearing that.
Yeah, I was hearing there's a conspiracy theory that what actually happened was COVID's legit, and we had a pandemic, we had a crisis, and we had 15 days to slow the spread. However, the economic crisis was real. We're supposed to have, they say every 10 years there's like an economic downturn of some sorts, and we kind of dodged that for some reason. I heard a conspiracy theory. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying it's literally probably not true. That Democrats made bad bets with, unions made bad bets. They made bad investments. The investments soured. And then when COVID hit, they knew that there was going to be a serious collapse of retirement funds and people's 401ks and things like that. So they were like, we need a bailout. We saw all these blue states. Now, this part is true. Cuomo, for instance, being like, New York needs money. And Trump was like, shove it. Too bad. Run your state better. Now we get the $1.9 trillion stimulus. And Republicans are calling it a bailout for blue states that are poorly managed.
Well,
so I don't know about those conspiracies.
they had the $2.2 trillion stimulus a year ago.
Right. And it's covering look, New York's crumbling. The metro, for instance, the MTA, they're struggling to repair it. They're not making enough money as to how much it costs. So you had that whole situation with AOC where Amazon was going to come in, bring these 40,000 jobs, potentially $30 billion over 10 years. They needed that money to fix their train systems. It didn't happen.
And I guess, interestingly enough, with the amount of people that are probably leaving New York because of the lockdowns, I can imagine they're probably going to be making way for, a vacuum of sorts.
But I wonder, man. I mean, Bill de Blasio said he's going to buy up these buildings, turn it into public housing. I wonder if the economy is just worse than we realize, and they're not going to tell us because panic would only make it worse, right?
Well, yeah, obviously.
If they came out and said, my fellow Americans, several large unions with hundreds of thousands of members put their money in dangerous places and lost the retirements of millions of middle-class Americans. This is going to result in a ripple effect that wipes out. If they said something like that, people would freak out.
Oh, 100%. Right. Crash the banks.
Remember what George W. Bush said after 9/11?
Which part?
How old are you?
I'm 33.
All right, so you should remember this.
Yeah.
He said, go buy stuff. He said, go buy stuff.
Well, because the 9/11 attack was, in addition to being an actual terrorist attack on the people, it was an attack on our financial center. And
what he was basically saying was, if you want to help, go out and buy things to keep the economy moving. When that attack happened and people are panicking, you get a natural reaction from a lot of people to stock up, store up, save your money, and bunker down.
Right.
And he was like, no, the machine's got to keep churning. You need to keep the machine going so we generate taxes, so we can pay for this stuff, so we can build new things, go buy stuff. That's a scary prospect because that can't last forever, can it?
Right.
So I don't know exactly, if any of these conspiracies are true. I would actually argue they're probably not. That's why we call them conspiracies. But I will say you can look at the crisis in 2008, the mass printing of money. It was only a matter of time before we were going to see that bubble burst. It could not be maintained.
Do you remember how much the 2008 bailout was for?
It was for $989 million.
Yeah, that was
billion.
That was what was on the books. I'm reading
billion.
an article
not
here
million.
from
That's too small.
This article from MIT quotes a 2015 Forbes article that says we've paid back 4.6 trillion of the 16.8 trillion that we committed to that bailout over I don't know how many years, 15 or 20 years or something. Now, this is Forbes reporting that.
Okay.
I don't if we secretly committed 16 trillion in 2008 and we're still paying it back, maybe that's another explanation for why they just flooded the market with $12 trillion.
I mean, dude, the Federal Reserve, the fractional reserve system, it is a stack of cards. It is literally a Ponzi scheme, and it works because we have guns. So at a certain point, it's gonna fall apart. Like, you guys understand how banking in this country works, right?
Fractional reserve, as far as I understand, is the Federal Reserve will loan a bank $1 million. The bank then can loan out 90% of that, so they can loan out 900,000.
They need to keep 10% on reserve, but they're not. That loan is creating the money supply. So when you give $100 to a bank, they can then loan out $90, which is created on the books.
And then
expanding
to another bank. Then that other bank takes that 90 and can loan out 81.
No, not necessarily. They loan it to you. So they give you. So I put $100 in the Bank of Ian. Then the Bank of Ian is able to give a $90 loan to the Bank of to Siraj as an individual. Siraj
I
then
don't get my own bank.
You don't get your own bank.
Not yet.
But then you deposit your $90. You deposit your $90 into the Bank of Lydia. Now Lydia can loan out 90%.
Whoa, this sounds a little bit racist.
Talk about it.
Well, I don't got a bank either.
Oh, I thought you just said
Hey,
you
wait,
had a bank.
Tim's the Federal Reserve here.
So the point is, a bank gives an individual money. The individual puts it in a bank. That bank then loans out. Then an individual puts it back in a bank. So it's just basically a stack of cards.
Right.
It's basically a game of hot potato, and where the debt keeps stacking up. The interest becomes impossible to pay, and then Obama signs a massive stimulus. The money printing goes out of control. This was predictable a long time ago. I mean, when did we go off the gold standard? That was in
1970, I think.
70s.
Yeah, the 72, 73 shock.
Do you know what the issue there was? It's really, really simple. If all four of us here in this room are trading, $1 between each other. So it's like I give Ian $1 in exchange for a high five, then Ian gives Siraj $1 in exchange for a high five. The only way to get that high five is to have the dollar and make it to you. So at one point I decide, you know what? I don't want to have to give away a high five to get that dollar. I want all the high fives for myself. So I tell all of you, hey guys, I'm going to manage the money printer. Don't worry. I'll make sure everything's good. And then when you guys aren't paying attention, I just print money for myself. I don't do any work. Basically what happens is we're able to fund all of these wars and all this conflict because the Fed can print out money, loan it to whoever they want without contributing anything to society. We've got missing trillions of dollars on the books or whatever from the Pentagon, some nonsense. We've not audited the Fed. We need to figure out how much money is being printed, who it's going to, and we don't know. At a certain point, if they can just snap their fingers and create money on the books, and we don't understand the system, other people are exploiting it, the house of cards is going to fall over.
Yeah,
that's it.
And I mean, you inspired me to make a great idea. I'm definitely going to start charging people for high fives.
Yes,
that's the way to go.
Specifically, kids.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.